Hey y'all, welcome to the Choose Grace podcast. My name is Josephine Kennedy. On here, I feature many inspiring people from all walks of life in a variety of ages, where we discuss some of life's biggest challenges while keeping it real and keeping it fun. My goal is to help people work through their challenges with grace and a whole lot of God. So through this, I hope I can inspire you to do just that.
All right, my name is Jenna Van Mourik, and the short version that I usually give people for when I introduce myself is that I'm an inspired writer and inspirational fiction reader, because that's kind of how I got my start on the internet, was just sharing about writing books and then reading them and reviewing them. But a little bit of a longer version is that I am a huge fan of history and studying and biblical fiction, which if you don't know what that is, it's pretty much, if you've ever heard of something called Ben-Hur or The Robe, it's a lot like that, where you take historical fiction set during any biblical time period. So it's just like any other historical fiction. And I'm really passionate about that and just studying as much as I can, especially the historical context of God's Word, and getting into that and just diving deeper into that history. And a couple of fun facts are that I got my degree in English literature from California Baptist University, and I live in Northern California with my husband and my dog.
I love that. Okay, that's awesome. Yes, and isn't your dog named Piper?
Yes, you might hear her if she barks really loudly.
That's okay. I love that. So I'm just going to go right in and get started with the question. What is your biggest challenge in your life right now, and what are you doing to overcome it?
Yeah, so this might come up quite a lot throughout the podcast, but I would say that my biggest challenge is releasing my debut book, Jerusalem's Daughter, which is a biblical fiction novel set during the time of Christ, about one girl's journey to try and find the Messiah. And I've always dealt with anxiety. You might not know it from talking to me, but I have social anxiety, and just in general, I struggle with, stress and anxiety a lot. But it's been really different when I'm, getting ready to release a book, because in addition to like boring things that I have to worry about, like formatting and proofreading, I've just also been struggling with a lot of self-doubt and just wondering, like, what if nobody likes it? What if everything goes terribly wrong or nobody reads it? And a big influence on my life is the book of Exodus. I mean, the whole Bible, obviously, but specifically the story of Moses, because, he was a biblical figure that also struggled with anxiety and self-doubt throughout his story. And particularly a theme that's kind of just always been ingrained in my memory has been the burning bush, because that's when God calls Moses to, go back to Egypt and talk to the Pharaoh on behalf of the Hebrew slaves. And Moses is like, maybe I should try to get somebody else. I don't have eloquent speech. I don't think I'm the right man for the job. And God specifically replies in Exodus 4:11-12, who gave human beings their mouths, who makes them deaf or mute, who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and teach you what to say. And that just has always really comforted me, because although like I can really, get burdened with anxiety sometimes, I deal with that by reminding myself that, God is with me. He's going to teach me what to say. He's going to help me speak. I just have to be willing to be his vessel. So I'm dealing with the whole book anxiety and the publishing anxiety in the same way of just like, God called me to do this. And it isn't so much about my words as much as it is about his message being told through me. And I just keep, I remind myself that I'm in that same place where God is telling me, now go, go do this thing, even if it's hard. And that just really helps me, because it's not so much my story that I'm being published, but just a story that I feel that God has given me. And ultimately, I remind myself that I hope that it's his message and his truth that people enjoy, and that his light shines through me and my writing. And that just really helps me to realize and deal with the anxiety on a daily basis, sometimes even an hourly or minute-by-minute basis.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I think that is something that a lot of people struggle with, is self-doubt. And I know I have, especially with starting a podcast, it's definitely been, that self-doubt just like creeps up on you, and you sometimes don't even realize it. and it can really affect you. Or a lot of people will just completely shut down any opportunities God gifts them with because they have so much self-doubt, or the people around them are telling them they can't do it. And so I really like how you said just allowing God to be a vessel, or allowing me to be a vessel for God and just really share his word. And also so it glorifies him, and it's really just sharing his story. So I love that.
And exactly, because like we don't have to be anxious about what God's doing, because we know that like all of his ways and his actions are perfect, and he makes everything good in his timing. So there's no point in being anxious about that. And I think reminding yourself of that really helps to just face that head on.
Yes, definitely. I agree. So there's going to be several different questions about your writing, because this is my first author that's going to be featured. Cleo is probably a little bit,
yay.
She's like, oh, I'm doing her soon. So everyone's like, so when are you going to do your family? I'm like, I'm getting there. But anyway, when did you know that God was really just laying it on your heart to write a book and, really just step out and do that?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question, because I grew up